The Wagering Zone coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on which time zone you happen to be living in. We're coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. And of course, we're here also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts. We're also on Google, we're on Spotify, Verbal, you name it, you can find us very easily. Welcome to the show. Okay. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about today. Yesterday was the start of the NFL as far as the preseason goes. I'm sure a lot of people were watching just to kind of get back into that rhythm, into that NFL rhythm. Now you have to start really concentrating and paying more attention to what's going on in the NFL. I was sitting around a table for dinner yesterday with a group of people, and I mentioned the fact that Wentz was hurt, and half the people on the table weren't even aware of it. Yet I know they do handicap and they do bet. So, you got to start thinking about things like that. These headlines that you're seeing now and some storylines, they would normally say, I don't need to know about that right now because we're in July or maybe we're in June or something like that. But now we're not there. We're now in August, okay? And of course, now you have to start paying attention. The preseason games have begun. They're going to keep going and then leading up to the big game that begins in September. So anyway, I want to thank you very much for listening. I know yesterday we spent a good part of the day apologizing for thing what that would kind of went wrong with us yesterday. We had some problems as far as bandwidth situations, and it all started actually when we first moved into Colorado. I moved my family and gear and everything into Colorado from Charlotte, North Carolina. Of course, if you've ever done that before, you know what that's like. You have family, you have gear, you have looking for an apartment and going crazy. So we did have a kind of a rough going there, but I think slowly but surely we're getting everything put together. So if you kind of stay with us a while, we're going to get back on track as we were prior to that move to Denver. So anyway, I'm Chris Pardo. Again, thanks for listening. I'll tell you, we totally appreciate you listening to the show. And if you want to get a hold of us, let us know what you think of the show. Maybe there's some changes you might want to think about making. Just simply send us an email. Send it to the sports wagering zone at gmail.com. That's the sports wagering zone at gmail.com. I always say we've been doing the show for over 5 years now, and we're kind of like we say, we're in a bubble. We've been doing the show. Everything seems to be going fine. Our numbers have been increasing as we go along. So we kind of think we're doing the right thing. But, sometimes you have to make a little tweak here and there. So if there's anything that you may think of, by all means, we want to hear from you. That's the sports wagering zone at gmail.com. Now, as usual, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look and see what happened yesterday as far as sports were concerned and gambling. The NFL, the Steelers rallied yesterday. If you watched the game, beat the Cowboys 16-3. The preseason got kicked off with that Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. The Steelers covered because they closed as a 2.5-point neutral site favorite, and the total stayed under 31.5. We talked about this game yesterday. We went over the trends over the past 20 years as far as this particular game is concerned. And we kind of told you the favorites usually wind up winning, and also the numbers seem to always stay low, primarily because none of the major players really got to play yesterday. Yeah, you got a few of the rookies, the number one draft picks, and things of that nature. Then you got to take a look at them. But you didn't see Bradshaw, you didn't see Roethlisberger or anything of that nature. So that's kind of the story as far as that particular game is concerned. Meanwhile, in Major League Baseball, the favorites went 8-4. Had some big upsets yesterday. The Twins, a plus 210 on the money line against the Astros. The Royals, a plus 176 against the White Sox. And the Marlins, a plus 118 against the Mets. And the Tigers were a plus 111 on the money line against the Red Sox, who seem to be kind of falling behind right now. But still, the favorites, they lead. They're at 58.5%, doing very, very well so far this season. The unders yesterday were 8-3-1. You had that one push on San Francisco and Arizona, which had a total of 9. And again, just to let you know, if you're new to the show, or just as a reminder, whenever we talk about lines, when we talk about pushes or ties, things of that nature, we're always talking about Las Vegas, the line as it appeared in Las Vegas. It may be different from where you are. In other words, if you're in San Francisco or in Arizona, and if you're placing a bet, you're going to have a different number possibly than us here in Vegas, than people in Vegas, or even me here in Denver. So anyway, that's the story with Major League Baseball. So today we have a full schedule lined up for you today. And of course, not only is the National Football League coming into play, but also the Canadian Football League is starting up as well. And of course, with Canada passing their legislation for legalized betting, may not be a bad idea to kind of pick up on it and give you some handicapping tips on how to handle that situation. Also, baseball is still the king right now, still going on. And of course, our system or method, whatever you want to call it, where we follow the line movement of the game and of games, and we also take a look and see which direction the pros are going. We bring that to your attention. We had two choices yesterday. We had Pittsburgh against Cincinnati. We had Cincinnati in that game, and that was a winner. Atlanta against the Cardinals. We had Atlanta in that game, and that was winner. So we had two plays yesterday. We had two winners. So far since the month of August, we've had 14 plays. We had 8 winners. 57%. That's a great number to be taking a look at. When you see the overall favorites are winning at 58.5%. This is the pros number at 57% so far this month. Of course, we have 3 games on tap for today. 1 or 2 losses in there. And of course, that number will change drastically as well because we only have 14 games. 3 more games for today will give us 17. We're going to look at the Marlins against the Rockies, the Rangers against the Oakland A's, and the Angels against the Dodgers. LA series starting up right up there. So those are the 3 games we're going to take a closer look at, trying to see which way the line movement is going. And that way we try to determine in which direction the pros are leaning as well. So let's get that first break out of the way. If you've listened to the show before, you know we take 3 breaks within the show. Each one is of a 1-minute duration. So if that's the case, we will be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. We're coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, right here on the I 95 Sports and Entertainment Network, also on Blackjack Television, and we're on milehighradio.com as well. And of course, we're on most of the major podcast platforms as well, such as Spotify or Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio. We're on just about every one. So, welcome to the show. So, let's take a look at three games that we're taking a look at. As far as their line movement is concerned, and trying to determine in which direction the pro money will be flowing in these games. Today is Friday, and a lot of people like to refer to today as Happy Fade the Public Friday. Fade the Public Friday, which means whatever way the public is going, you want to try to go in the other direction because there's going to be a lot of money coming in on a Friday. Again, a lot of people get paid on Friday. It's the end of the week. They finally settling down, trying to make some selections, Friday night lights and stuff like that. So, this is a type of day that a lot of the general public starts coming into play. And of course, it's great for contrarians such as us here at the show. Meanwhile, at 8:40 tonight, that's the first game we're looking at. The Miami Marlins and the Colorado Rockies. Miami 47 and 62 on the season. The Rockies at 48 and 61, very close. Now, both these teams are at the bottom of the divisions where they're located. The Marlins are in last place in the National League East. They're 9.5 games behind the Mets. Meanwhile, the Rockies, they're in fourth place in the National League West, and they're 21 games behind the Giants. So tonight's series opener, you got Miami coming out with their right-handed pitcher, Sandy Alcantara. He's 6-9 so far this season with a 3.12 ERA. And Colorado comes back with their righty, German Marquez, 9-8 with a 3.51 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with the Rockies as a minus 140 home favorite at the open. The Marlins were plus 130 as a road dog. Now, the public sees these two teams almost identical because, like we just told you, the records are just about the same and it doesn't know who to kind of back. But of course, the pros, as usual, in this game, they know where they're going and they're on the Rockies because we've seen Colorado get steamed up from minus 140 up to minus 150. That's not much of a steam, but it is a 10-cent steam nonetheless. Non-division home favorites, keep this in mind. A non-division home favorite is at 61.5% so far this season. And if you would have been playing just non-division home favorites since the beginning of the season, you'd be up at least 16 units, depending on, how much you bet. We talk about units because some people bet $100, some people bet $1,000, some people bet $10. So whatever you're betting, we talk about it in units, you'd be up 16 units. So if you're $1,000 better, you'd be up 16,000. If you're a $10 better, you'd be up $160. Okay. Now, the sweet spot non-division home favorite. Now, a sweet spot is between minus 150 and minus 170. They're at 66% so far this season. The Rockies in this game, they're 16-7 as a favorite so far this season. The Marlins, well, they're 29-45 as a dog. So the Rockies are hitting a 246 as a team, which ranks them as the ninth best team in baseball. The Marlins are hitting at 234, which ranks them at the 21st spot. The Marlins are 20-35 on the road so far this season. The Rockies at home, because of the mile high situation, 35-21 at home. The wise guys or the pros, they're also leaning to the under in this game. The total has dropped from 10 down to 9.5. The forecast here in Denver calls for temperatures in the mid to upper 80s. You got 7 to 10 mile per hour winds blowing in blowing in at Coors Field. That's the name of the stadium here in Denver. So that's why the total is on the underside, and you can see why, moving from 10 to 9.5. So in this first game between the Marlins and the Rockies, the pros and also the analytical data points to the Colorado Rockies. Also around 9:40 p.m., you got the Texas Rangers, 39-70 this season against the Oakland A's, 61-48. Now, these are division rivals. And if you look at their records, you'll see that they're trending in opposite directions. The last place Rangers just dropped 3 out of 4 games to the Angels, and the Athletics are 5-2 over their last 7 games, and just 4 games back of Houston, who's in first place. Now, in tonight's first game, the Rangers come in with Mike Fultonowicz. He's 2-10 with a 6 ERA. And the A's come back with their right-hander, Chris Bassett. He's 11-3 this season with a 3.28 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with Oakland, a minus 210 home favorite on the money line. Texas opened as a plus 190 road dog. Now, the pros in this situation, they're not going to outsmart themselves. They're backing the better team because they're at home. They got a better starting pitcher. So they wound up steaming the A's all the way up. Now, this is a real big steam, going from minus 210 up to minus 260 on the money line. So if you do like Oakland in this game, you're going to be laying some heavy wood as well, because Oakland is also in what we call a rest against tired advantage in this situation. And remember, favorites that are coming off a day off against teams who played the day before are at 63% so far this season. Now, also big favorites that are minus 200 or more are coming off of a win, believe it or not, 71.7, almost 72%. Once again, the big favorites, if they're 200, minus 200 or more on the money line, and they're coming off of a win, are at almost 72% so far this season. The A's are 45-29 as a favorite. The Rangers, well, they're 30-58 as a dog. Oakland is 31-25 at home. Texas is 13-40 on the road. They're tied with the Rockies for the worst road record in Major League Baseball. So in the second game between the Rangers and the Athletics, the pros are on the Athletics. And like I just said, if you like the Athletics in this game, be prepared to lay a lot of wood. So we're going to take our second break and get that out of the way. When we come back, we're going to look at the 10 o'clock game, Los Angeles Angels against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And of course, when I say 10 o'clock, I'm talking about Eastern time at 10 o'clock. So kind of adjust for it depending on which time zone you're living in right now. So that's the story so far. We'll recap those two when we come back. We're also going to take a look at the Angels-Dodgers situation and kind of again give you a little recap of how this little method or system has been working so far. So let's get that second break out of the way, and we'll be back in 1 minute. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from the Mile High City up in Denver, Colorado, right here on the I 95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. We're not going to go through all those all the time, but just kind of bring it to your attention so that in case you're listening to us live, but you would like to possibly listen to a podcast, those are the podcast platforms you might want to go to. So, we looked at two games so far on tap for today. We took a look at the Miami Marlins against the Colorado Rockies, and in that particular game, the pros are on the Colorado Rockies in that game. The Rangers against the Oakland Athletics in that game, the pros are on the Oakland Athletics. But again, just as a reminder, you're looking at a minus 260 on the money line. So if you like Oakland in this game, be prepared. You're going to be laying some heavy wood in this game. Meanwhile, the 10 o'clock Eastern Time game is Los Angeles Angels, who are 55 and 54, just one game over 500, playing against the Dodgers, 65 and 44. Both teams in the Los Angeles area. It's like the Mets and the Yankees, right? Now, this is the opening game. There's a three-game freeway series, as they call it. The Angels start lefty Patrick Sandoval. He's 3-5 with a 3.38 ERA. And the Dodgers come out with their southpaw, David Price. He's 4-1 with a 3.55 ERA. Now, this line opened with the Dodgers as a minus 180 home favorite. The Angels plus 165 as a road dog. Now, the pros have really jumped on the Dodgers in this one. They steamed the team up from being a minus 180 to a minus 200. Now, keep one thing in mind non division home teams with a steam of 10 cents or more are 192 and 118, which is at 62% so far this season. So if you were to play non division home teams that have moved more than 10 cents on the money line, you'd be up roughly 24 units. So once again, whatever you're betting, whether it's $10 or $1,000, you would have been up 24 units. So whatever it is you normally bet, just multiply that by 24. That's what you would have been ahead at this point in time. Now, interleague home teams with the line move in their favor are at almost 59%. The Dodgers also have that rest advantage spot. And again, non division favorites coming off a day of rest against teams who played the previous day, almost 75%. Now, these are the analytics on the game. The Dodgers are 65 and 41 as a favorite. The Angels, well, they're 23 and 28 as a dog. The Dodgers are 34 and 19 at home. The Angels 25 and 28 on the road. So not only the analytical data, but also the pros are on the Los Angeles Dodgers in this particular game. So those are the three games we looked at today. And just again to recap what happened yesterday, we had two choices yesterday. We had Pittsburgh against Cincinnati, Atlanta against St. Louis. We had Cincinnati in the first game, and that was a winner. We had Atlanta in the second game, and that was a winner. Now, the day before that, we had three plays. We had two winners, one loser. The day before that, we had two losers and one winner. Then the day before that, two winners and one loser. And the day before that, two losers and one winner. So you can kind of get an idea as to how it kind of goes. So kind of bring this to your attention. If you're not keeping a record on this stuff, we're doing it for you, and we're just going to keep reminding you about it. Of course, if you're not interested in the system at all, I guess it's all kind of boring to you, but at least kind of see how it's doing. Because right now, coming in to August, through August, not many days, we only had 5 days, 57% is the number, 14 plays with 8 winners. And of course, looking back at July, the final totals on July were right at 50% as the month came to an end, 50.8 to be exact. That's the way to take a look at that. So that's the story with those games for today. Now, once again, it's information. That's all it is. Not telling you should bet on it, not telling you shouldn't bet on it, trying to show you some of the pitfalls, like if you're gonna have to bet on the Dodgers or if you're gonna bet on Oakland, you're gonna have to lay some heavy wood on those games. But the statistical data on heavyweight games so far this season have been very, very good. Okay. So you have to take a look at it from that perspective as well. Laying a lot of wood, but again, more than likely, your chances of winning are better. That's why you're laying that extra wood. Everybody kind of seems the same thing. So that's the story as far as baseball is concerned. We're going to take our final break. And when we come back, like we said, the NFL got started yesterday with their preseason, and now the Canadian Football League is ready to get going. So we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, give you some handicapping tips on betting that Canadian Football League if you are interested. Okay, so let's take that break, and I'm Chris Pardo. Thanks for listening. You're on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, and we'll be back right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Absolutely. We enjoy doing the show. We love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us by sending an email to the sportswageringzone at gmail.com. Love to hear about any comments you have, any questions you have. If you're new in the betting game, you have some questions, you're not sure what some of the terminology is, be more than happy to help you with that. And of course, as we start getting more and more people involved, there's 30 states in America, in the United States. And of course, we've got Canada now coming into play. There's a lot of action going to be going on, a lot of new listeners, a lot of new players. And of course, got to learn some of the terminology, because if I use the word steam and you don't know what it means, it doesn't do you any good. So steaming, just to give you an idea, is when a lot of money comes in on a particular team, like, and when that usually happens, it's done by the pros. They come in with their big money at the end. We'll go into more detail explaining how that system kind of works, how at the beginning of the week the numbers are lower when it comes to NFL games. For instance, on Monday you have a lower amount of money that is a maximum that you can bet, and it kind of moves up more and more every day up until game time, where you can bet up to $1 million if you're in that type of situation. But that's the NFL. We'll be covering that as well. But of course, like we said, it came back yesterday, not just in the Hall of Fame. Okay. Also in Winnipeg, in the Canadian Football League, they had an opener between the Blue Bombers and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The results actually come up north, but with the BC Lions visiting the Saskatchewan Roughriders Friday and two games on Saturday, you got Toronto Argonauts at Calgary and the Ottawa Red Blacks at Edmonton. Of course, you can bet on all of it if you wish, okay? Now, because it's been 20 months since the Canadian Football League played, and when we kind of left off then, Winnipeg upset Hamilton to win the Grey Cup, which is the same thing as our Super Bowl. That's back in 2019. They won 33-12. Now, the Blue Bombers weren't the league's best team that year. They went 11-7, and they settled in as the third seed in the West, but they won 3 road postseason games, all as underdogs in those games, on their way to winning the title. Now, it wasn't a complete shock, though, as over the last 4 seasons, only Calgary has won more games than Winnipeg. So I'm going to be talking about weekly game ratings if I have the time to do it for most of the contests in the 2021 season, okay, and kind of give you the spreads on them if we have them, just as we've done in the past. I'll also try to keep you up to speed on any betting trends, anything strange that's coming up as far as the Canadian Football League is concerned. But the first thing you have to watch out for is that there are 9 teams in the Canadian Football League. They have 4 new coaches. They have 3 new starting quarterbacks. So here's some basic betting concepts to think about in this coming season. You want to aim low with your scoring expectations. It's important. The Canadian Football League is considered a wide open, high scoring league by most people who aren't familiar with it. But while the NFL scoring has really gone up in the past few years, the Canadian scoring has done just the opposite. In fact, since the start of the 2014 season, the unders boast a record of 276 to 202, which is a little over 57%. It's actually closer to 58%. Now, if you drill even deeper with games showing totals of 55 or higher, the under is at almost 64%. And of course, there's always a road field advantage. In looking at the home road results for the last 7 seasons, in only 1 year have home teams finished with a record of better than 500 against the spread. There's been safety in betting on the road teams as they are at 54.5% since the start of 2013. Now, home teams have gone outright in that span at 325 to 257, but the point spread has proven to be more than the great equalizer. It provides a really nice betting cushion if you're betting for the road teams. That's where they are. Now, also, similarly to road teams holding an advantage, big underdogs have enjoyed the game, barking loud and clear. Going back to 2010, Canadian Football League underdogs of 4.5 points or more are at almost 56%. It's a nice return on an investment for a really simple wagering system. Just looking at the underdogs of 4.5 points or more. You don't take anything else into consideration. Strictly mechanical. You would have been ahead pretty well. So, and also you want to go with the flow. Don't go against it. While this angle isn't nearly as lucrative as the others, results in 2013 have shown that backing teams coming off outright wins has been more effective than putting your money behind the teams that lost their last game. The difference has been from 51 to 58% against the spread. And also, there's a combo system. If you're looking for a narrower betting angle, you want to utilize a combination of all these concepts. Consider consistently backing the road dog of 4.5 points or more if they're coming off a win. Remember, since 2013, these teams have gone almost 59%. Once again, it's a simple concept, and it can also bring you a pretty good, decent profit as well. So that's the story with the Canadian Football League. If you're thinking about betting CFL, by all means, think about it. It's a very good league. The teams are pretty decent. A lot of the players are American players that didn't get into the NFL and play up in Canada. And then there were some guys that went up to Canada to play, showed how well they could play, came back and did play in the NFL. Okay. So it's that way. But keep in mind, if you see a game and there's an underdog of 4.5 points or more, it's a good idea if you're gonna bet to bet on a game like that. Again, if you've never heard this show before, we're strictly a non-emotional team, non-emotional show. We're talking about analytics, numbers, trends, things of that nature. Bring it to your attention. And then, of course, as always, we leave it up to you to decide which ones to pay attention to, which ones you want to get involved with. Maybe you can, maybe you got a system you're very happy with right now. So maybe you can maybe employ some of these things into that system that you have as well. So that's the story with the Canadian Football League. We'll be giving you some trends on the NFL coming up in days ahead. Once again, the three baseball games on tap for tonight. The Marlins against the Rockies. The pros are on the Rockies. Rangers against the Oakland A's. The pros are on the Oakland A's. And finally, the Battle of Los Angeles. The Angels against the Dodgers. The pros are on the Dodgers in that game. But like I said before, keep in mind, if you're going to be betting the Oakland or the Dodgers, get ready to lay out some real heavy wood in those games. So anyway, thanks again for listening. It's Friday. It's the end of the week, and tomorrow is Saturday. We're here every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We're here every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So set your clocks, set your time for tomorrow. We're on at 11 in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays. So once again, thanks for listening, guys. Hope you're putting up with some of our nonsense over the past few days. Hopefully, we got most of those problems out of the way, and it'll be a much more pleasant atmosphere for you and for us as well. So, if you're betting today, I hope you have a very pleasant Friday. And if you're not, just sit back, relax, start thinking about the NFL season coming up, some of the thoughts and ideas on your handicapping as well. So, until tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, I'm Chris Pardo. We'll be coming back to you on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms. So until tomorrow at 11 a.m., have a great day. Goodbye, everybody.